Okay. Um, so how that relates to HBCU League Pass, and have you been to the site before, sir? So have you seen hbculeaguepass.com?
I have not yet.
Okay. Are you in front of a computer right now?
I am.
Okay. You can go to hbculeaguepass.com and register for a site. That site is free to students if you have an EDU address, and I think if you got an mil.gov or whatever the case may be, you can still go ahead and get a an account to go through and look at all of the functionality. We built a platform basically that is a secured platform that replaces Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. That actually became quite important to me because we had released our ACardio's technology on AWS prior. We were about to release ACardio cyber technology into the space, and I think probably somebody found out about it that had the ability to unplug me. So they're trying to silence that technology because it is very disruptive. We've had many different disruptive technologies. I know you're not aware, but in I think it was 2015, I drove from Tybee Island, Georgia to Long Beach, California in 2 cars without any gasoline. And Fox News covered us all the way across the United States. That was in a hydrogen technology, and we're about to release a battery technology that's even more disruptive. That applies to HBCU is, you need to take that, sir?
No,
No,
that's me.
that's not
That's me.
Oh, okay.
That's me. Sorry about that. I'm getting on silent now.
Many years ago, I think it was in 2005, I had designed a training platform that was based around what Mr. Zig Ziglar used to teach, and it was breaking down bite-sized modules of a specific content. So we would take an authority in their field, stream 3 to 10 minutes of video of them addressing the content of their message. The completion of that content, we would give them the key to the next step. The next step was to download first-person affirmation documentation to support the video that they just watched. And then after they completed that, they would receive the key to move on to the next portion of that module, and that was to be assigned a task or a test to 100% competency before we would give them the key to move on to the next module. So it really didn't matter whether you were filling a salt shaker or building a V8 engine. We just broke it down into bite-sized modules for a training system. And I did that, a company called Excel Telecommunications used it, and it was the first training system that was used in direct sales that we could directly tie a customer versus rep ratio increase based on that technology. So HBCU was built basically to give the ability to watch all of the ball games. We are the front end and the back end of that. We built the front end that you will see at hbculeaguepass.com. We also built the back end to basically be able to drop and drag different content into that back office. We created a scheduler, an encoder, and we stream that out over Roku and Samsung and other distribution networks. So based on that, HBCU would take probably an hour to go through to show you the front end and the back end, but basically you can go to any one of the HBCUs. You can get a virtual tour through the connected campuses. You can drill down to get information on that particular school. You can go into all of their sports. We're keeping all of the data. All of that is aggregated and distributed from what you can see here is our our control room where all that information comes in, and then we schedule it and distribute it back out across the web. That can be duplicated for any company, organization, or entity, and it's all on a secured network. So that's a 30,000 foot view of what's going on as far as HBCU, or the duplication of that entire platform for whatever purpose.
I did, it sounds like you just gave me the recap of what Lyle is doing on his platform. And with the addition, plus the addition of the reach to League Pass. And so I was a bit of a recap. And so in my mind, I was on the Lyle platform. What's the name of his basic platform? What's it called?
Silo Cloud.
Silo Cloud.
What is it called?
Silo Cloud.
Yeah, Silo Cloud.
Yes,
So
sir.
it sounded like Silo Cloud with an addition of League Pass.
Yes, sir. We also, I'm sorry, I left out that we have the ability to supply you with your own channel for distribution of educational material, or whatever the case may be, video, documents, training system, whatever. We support Woman TV right now, Mojo, and other channels. So we are the not necessarily the content provider, but we are the carrier of those platforms with our platform.
Right. And General Bray, if I can, Lyle had offered up verbally the use of the system for Dakar, and that's where I'm trying to make a case for getting such a channel, or at least piloting some of the offerings that we have for our students and faculty network. And that's kind of where, in a perfect world, that's why I'd like to see some of the conversation lead to a way for us to take the system and create members and subscribers that would take some of the training and the speakers and some of the workforce development that we're offering at the community colleges. And notwithstanding,
if you see me looking frustrated, I've just reset my username and password twice, and each time I get it, it comes back and doesn't like me. So I'm trying to go inside of it. I'm at the watch the stadium piece, because I'm trying to see where it's different from the what I saw on Silo Cloud, or how it plays, how it interfaces. It's and to be fair, I still, because I'm not a good enough user yet, and that's probably the right word. I'm not a good enough user to know how to make it work for me to do what I want it to do, because it is leveraging the Facebooks, the Twitter, the other stuff, and basically mass populating all of them. I really need to play with this some more, but put all that aside. In terms of, I guess I need to know how it will be used for Dakar.
Well, and that's, you know, Bray, so where you may have interest, or we could possibly create a piece for you, is that we're going to discuss with Keisha on Friday a potential for Dakar to become an aggregator of all of the things that Keisha is trying to do with something called the Vermont Slots and Economic Development Corporation, who is partnering with Best Buy and USC Annenberg to create a teen tech center in South LA. And this teen tech center in LA will be the flagship for 42 Best Buy teen tech centers around the world, in Canada and Mexico.
Mr.
And
Preston, how many folks right now are on HBCU League Pass and iCloud or the Silo Cloud?
Currently, so that content is distributed to all of the HBCUs, which would encompass, I believe, students.
Rick, we lost your audio.
No, someone's talking to him.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. At last, excuse me. At last count, I believe they reported about 22 million. That does not count their family and friends that would also be able to log on as well. We're just in the finishing talks to also take on a channel for Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, which is about 50 million students and 2 million teachers.
Okay. So let me go to you for a second. By the way, the predecessor to the Fitbit that you spoke of, I was in charge of Army experimentation from 2003 to 2006.
Yes, sir.
And in the early 1990s, we were also doing battlefield tracking of individuals so that you could be able to not only see soldiers at locations, but basically GPS marking of each person. And then based upon what just as you described, so, not the Fitbit, but it is really the functional, not the one that Apple created, but the functional version that also does oxygen levels, so you can tell the status of individuals on the battle space. So I have been tracking that for a while. So you could tell basically, right now, if we try to say, is a person alive or dead, two people got to see them. But if you have a system on you and we confirm that it was you at that spot, we could also confirm you were dead or not. So that was good stuff. And of course, what you were doing was with the challenges of being more than a mile down in water does replicate probably because a mile down is, what's that?
Actually, I was at 30 feet, sir.
Say again?
I was at 30 feet. I was at 1.62 atmospheres.
Yes. You said how deep were you down?
A 1.62 atmospheres. I was at 30 feet.
30 feet, yeah, because I was gonna say 34 feet's an atmosphere. And so, and like I said, and once you started going down and they were doing the test but minimizing the risk.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we have a program that I would love to implement through the military. Cardios is my company, and we quantify the elastic indices utilizing a pulse oximeter of your large artery, small artery, peripheral artery, test your left ventricle ejection time in milliseconds, hydration level, O2, sat, and pulse, all in a non-invasive 15-second snapshot. That's our Acardio's pulse oximetry technology. We were just about to release our cyber technology, which actually exceeds a cath lab that can produce 49 different measurements versus 6 to 10 measurements of a cath lab, basically putting a sniper in a flexible circuit board, whether it's shirt, hat, pants, shoes, whatever the case may be. In 6 minutes, we can not only tell you the quantification of arterial restriction or inflammation, we can tell you what artery it is, whether it's in the leg or the widowmaker wrapped around the heart. So that technology can be deployed in the field along with a for the rest of the troops because it's not economically feasible for all of the troops for that. But we do have kiosks that can be strategically placed at every installation, military installation in the world, that gives the ability for a troop to sit down in a chair, put his arm in a blood pressure cuff, and in just a few minutes be able to quantify all of those health factors, distribute health, hydration, diet, and exercise information back to them cost free. So
If I may ask, how long were you down underwater?
I lived underwater for 19 minutes and 69 days. I did that because a man named Barry Cannon died in 1969, and the record that I broke was set in 1969. I was 100% O2 sat, so brought down one of the first handheld pulse oximeters on the bottom of the ocean and put it on my finger, and I was 100%.
You said you were underwater for 19 minutes for 69 days, or 69 days and 19 minutes.
Well, 69 days and 19 minutes, but I say that, sir. 19,
I got you. I got the 1969 references. I'm with you. I got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Barry Cannon died in 1969. That stopped all of NASA, NOAA, the Navy's undersea habitation programs. So we dedicated that dive. The first 30 days was a NASA program called La Chalupa 30. And then I stayed down for an additional 39 days to break the record. And we opened it up for all of the media, everything from the Mickey Mouse Club to Good Morning America. And I think we did 60 or 70 shows.
And hey guys, I really got to break contact, but Mr. Preston, I'm really glad to meet you.
Nice
I'm gonna try to be on Friday with you, but you've got to push the time back to something later in the afternoon or go much earlier in the morning.
Well, in general, we have everything that we've done for scheduling. We're tight for Friday. Keisha is at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 year time. Jay Tucker, I have a call with him at 11:30. That's more regarding the content, the African American military athlete content that we're going to try and find.
Hey, text me those times, and I'll tell you which ones I can support.
Kevin, okay. let's just do another call whenever it's convenient for the general. It's fine with me. This is what I do. So,
Mr. Preston, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're awesome.
Awesome. So General, I think what I'm going to do is set up some calls. So if you can give me some times, possibly weekend or the next week, because there's some things specifically just for you.
I'm serious. Do the times you got for Friday right now, and one of those sounded like it might be doable, but I got to look at my calendar to make sure it works. Just put them on there, okay?
You got it. Okay, thank you, sir,
all right,
for your time.
Take care, guys. Thank you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
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 Hey, Rick, you can stay on. You can stay on if you can.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is what I have to do for each person is I really have to set an agenda that is unique to their interest and their capability to actually apply anything that sounds good to you back to Lyle. Because at the end of the day, these are all partners. If you guys make me the client, these are all potential business opportunities that really don't connect one to another, except through me. I have additionally 2 other people who have Silo Cloud accounts who've been on the demonstrations with Lyle, who probably represent other factors that need to be petitioned. One of them is a gentleman with the FCC.
Hang on. I'm sorry, Kevin. Hang on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Is it not underneath the desk now? On the other side, it should be plugged in to the other side of. Yes, ma'am. If it's not, holler at me and I'll find it. But I think it's there. I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there are 2 other people who have been on demonstrations with Lyle. One is Lou Libin, who represents spectrum allocation and partnership with the largest broadcaster in the country, Sinclair Broadcasting. And where we left Lou was that we were trying to analyze the use of the FCC license that Lyle had, and Lou had some suggestions on what he could do to activate that license and be able to augment it with some additional capacity. So I'm talking to Lou for the first time in almost 3 months about this thing, and you could represent a way to bring that conversation back to life if you like.
Sure.
And he may be the most capable person of telling you where there is revenue opportunities with that FCC license, if that's only, you know, what it is we're going to focus on with the OTT channel and the broadcast capabilities for everything you're doing. Then I have another gentleman, his name is Lemur Walker. And Lemur is he's a subject matter expert in design and areas of kind of architecture. And he has created a startup that's been fully capitalized to do a lot of aggregation for professionals who are looking to network one-to-many. So they created a kind of a LinkedIn for professionals who are looking for more meaningful, more secure ways to be what LinkedIn was before it's been saturated with all kinds of people. And his real value to me is that he could actually help, because he was working with Boston Consulting Group as a way to find out how to really monetize anything and everything that I'm trying to do for Dakar, my foundation. So he was the guy that really was able to look at market caps and figure out where anything that we could do together with Lyle could find, you know, the VCs and even angel investors who would come in. So he's really, again, on top of the kind of venture startup stuff that would help me become a more robust investment for Lyle, if he was to use them. So I truly believe that each one of these guys almost needs to have their own understanding of you as the new guy on the scene and how to synthesize all of these things together is to try to figure out a pilot. And all of them would take a part in that email that I sent you. Everybody would take a part in that 15-week course, because they've all done speaking engagements and mentorship, and to some degree training. So if you can imagine Keisha, Jay Tucker, Lemur Walker, Lou Libin, and Jen O'Bray, each being a speaker, doing a panel to kick it off, and then actually taking a module to be part of any training platform you have. And most of what I would offer up as a feature of your training would have a speaker bureau of these kinds of individuals who come with their own database, their own outreach. And that's kind of how I look at building out the value proposition for a channel, is having these people all work together as mentors, part of my mentor speaker bureau. So that's kind of what I'm going to do.
Do that, Kevin. We have to rebuild our training system, because currently we're not. I mean, that's really old technology. So what we have now would be like putting it on rails, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to give you the one piece that I have as a online training curriculum to help students, you know, do self-paced, modules to get to certification. And it may be as old or not older than what you have. So I'll send you the link to it. It's called Digital Pathway Initiative.
As far as the content, we can break that content up in the training system to make it accountable for the company and the participant, for the educator and the educatee. We would need to rebuild that back-end platform of the training system, whatever content you have. As far as the speakers would be live or recorded, so that they didn't have to do it but once, to be able to utilize their time more effectively. And
Right.
then, at the graduation or the ceremony, if you're having those, then they can appear and do the dog and pony show at that point. But it wouldn't require them to. We're going to replicate and duplicate them for utilizing technology to maximize.
Right. Well, the interesting thing that I would offer up for the channel that Lyle would provide for me is that these people would do it live, because there's plenty of archived material that I've curated on each one of these people that connect back to their strongholds. The University of UCLA, General Bray with the military, Keisha with public and private sector economic development, Lemur with startup, and Lou with broadcast spectrum. Each one of those modules that they would then represent, I've got plenty of content on them. And then obviously to synthesize what it is that I could do to bring on stuff from Rick Presley and Lyle Alexander, I'd have you guys speak and teach and create an awareness around other things that you can bring to bear that would offer up career pathways for students, especially in advanced manufacturing or telco. Or you find any subject matter that you think would be interesting enough to build a module around. And if we had 15 weeks, we'd have 15 speakers and 15 modules, and each one of them could offer a certification. And that's what Dakar would offer up as a thing called a career exploration of all the things known and unknown to most folks who are job hirers, that these people would have this wealth of understanding of how the world works, how economics work, how distribution works, how the business of business, kind of the Internet of Things for people to become futurists on next level economics. So that's kind of what I look at the outcome being. And all of this stuff would be cloud-based, so that all the tools and all the things that are available are in the cloud. And literally it would be a much more robust accelerator, incubator that is not constricted by all the things that the normal accelerator incubator has got to be, again, grounded. And what I discussed with Keisha just briefly was that Lacey, the accelerator incubator that LADWP has invested in, gave them the real estate to build out this lab accelerator so that the physical place would allow everybody to actually build, design, and test their prototypes. And she asked me, well, how could we duplicate that if it was in the cloud? So all of their software is in a library where you go into a computer lab and everybody can work on, the different things they need to, again, further produce the prototype, test it. She said, well, how could you do that in a virtual environment where you need a physical space in order to actually cobble and tinker your experiments, your creations? So that's the one question I had to use that she asked me, is how could that accelerator incubator be in the cloud and be virtual?
Well, just my knee-jerk reaction to that, Kevin, is some of the things would be able to, well, let me put it like this. If we're filling a salt shaker, that don't need we can definitely do that through a training system to demonstrate the path or procedure that they need to take, and that could be done at home. If they're building a V8 engine, they probably don't have the tools to build that V8 engine, even if they had the components. So that would need to be in a physical location but think about this is what we saw with the system is if they're learning the who, what, when, where, and how prior to putting their hand on that tool, it makes it a lot faster in that lab, right? You're not wasting a lot of time in that lab because that student already understands the who, what, when, where, and how, right? They've been through it visually because see, there's two types of learners. There's audio learners, and there's visual learners, right? That's what, I don't know if you caught it, but I said the second step was to download first person affirmation documentation. Okay, we're
I got
telling them
this.
they deserve it. They can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it, right? To build up what is a lot of times the stumbling block is someone's poor self-image. Okay, now my self-image is not what I think of myself. It's not what you think of me. It's what I think you think of me. So we eliminate that through the training system and they don't even know it. Same way we're getting rid of white coat syndrome while you sit down at that Higgy, what you know as a Higgy machine or a blood pressure cuff, right? We deliver content on that screen that takes your mind off of and prevents you from creating what is called white coat syndrome.
Okay.
Because the first thing you do is you sit down and in your mind, you're taking a test of your health. And the first thing the body autonomic system does is shut down blood flow to the peripherals to make sure your vital organs have blood. And every human body is going to do that unless you create the content that takes their mind off of that. They're in a learning experience. We're delivering the content that we need to deliver to them in the manner based on, we hadn't even talked about this, but everybody has 3 egos and a red, yellow, blue, or green degree of each one of those egos. So it's like a 3-level chessboard, right? We develop the content to appeal to each one of those, either your youth, your adult, or your parent ego. They don't even know that's happening, but we know what are the triggers to the responses of each one of those personalities. So we run personalysis into that training system to appeal to whether you're, let me give it, this is oversimplified, okay, but it's going to give you a visual, okay?
Right. And your audio is a little off. Can you
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
I got you loud and clear. I'm recording this for one specific group of instructors and administrators at the college level.
Okay.
Because they're my clients. If I'm your client, they're my clients.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to give you an example of washing a car. Okay, and the 4 different personalities, the 4 different child personalities that come into play. Now, your child personality is you. When you come under stress, when you come under pressure, you're going to revert back to your child personality, your child ego. Okay, and red, yellow, blue, and green. I'm going to explain a red personality washing a car. I go out and I show them how to wash that car. I start at the top. I wash the top first. I wash the sides. I wash the other sides. Then I wash the wheels. That red personality is going to say, okay, I see it. I understand how to do it. Get out of my way. I'm going to go do it. Right? He's a go-getter. He's an alpha. He's a self-starter. Okay. You have a yellow personality. I take you out and show you how to wash that car. He's a social butterfly. He's going to go around and get all of his friends to help him wash that car. You know people like that. They're born social butterflies. Okay. That red personality don't really care what you even think about the rest of those people. He's going to go do it himself. You go to the blue personality, the blue ego, and that blue ego is very creative. I mean, they're very stubborn and they're very creative. And that's some of what you've seen before in our previous conversations about the personalities involved here, right? Very
Mhm.
creative. But buddy, they really don't care what you think about it. Okay. They're gonna create the inspiration for them to wash that car. They're going to get a special sponge or they're going to get a special bucket to do it, and they're going to wash it in a way that makes them feel good. Now the green ego, they're bean counters. That they'll demand the bacteria count on the milk of human kindness. And they're going to figure out exactly how many seconds it's going to take them to wash that car. Right? So you take all of those personalities, all of those egos in a child, in a parent, and in an adult ego, and we can tell where each one of those snowflakes, because it's 6 points on 4 corners on 3 levels. So everybody's individual. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And that's what I've learned about the educational systems that I work in, is that there is one way, there's one strategy for all the educational systems to teach, and they don't have a way to teach to those learners who learn the way that they learn and process the way they process. So you get a one size fits all, and
one size don't fit all.
I know, but that's the way they teach.
Right. No, I totally understand and totally agree. And that's why I mean, years ago we were using the Personalysis to deliver email to our recipients. And we delivered based on their profile. If we knew their profile, if we didn't, we distributed all of them because we knew what would trigger each ego. And that's why the response was so much more, because there's visual learners and there's audio learners, right? Well, we got to take those in a in a virtual world, and we got to we got to deliver our message in the way that they need to receive it to get them to respond the way we know they will respond. Right?
Yeah, right.
So therefore we can cut down and increase, because we're audio and video in the virtual world, right? And in their mind's eye, we're drawing what they need to do. They're seeing that. So they've already done it once, okay? They're downloading the first person affirmation documentation to support the video of whatever the content is that they just watched. It really don't matter, okay? And then the third task, and we're checking all of this, right? They can even go in and see where they're at in the hierarchy, what step they're on. and you as the moderator or the content provider can see where each student is every step of the way. We know what they've done and what they hadn't done. We don't have to see whether they've run off and chased a rabbit down a rabbit hole, because they can't get to the next module until they complete the step to get to the next module.
Exactly. And all of this data that you can collect can be manipulated for forecasting. Not only at the culminating, graduating, but you can actually give someone, as you said, on all the systems, you can give them some indicators of their health and their performance before we get to the end of the semester.
Absolutely.
And those are the things, those predictors don't have to come randomly from anything else other than the data that would allow everybody to understand how to get these learners to get better at what unique or disparities that they are working at, so that they reach a level individually, but they still reach the level at the standard for which we need them to get that certification, and apply it to something that we can make sure that they can pitch it. Because that's one part of the experiential learning, is that aside from just taking the test, you now have to present to a group of people assembled who will really understand that you have interpreted, applied everything you've learned to run and design and build a product or a program or something. And that skill set is what I believe is going to set these learners apart from all of the other people who don't do anything else other than go through the same rabbit hole that says that you get a degree and you're learning based on what everybody else has learned for the last 100 years.
Let me share this with you, and I got this from my 4th grade math teacher. I can tell you that we have only had 100% graduates of that training system. Now that's a bold statement because there ain't no university on the planet that can say that. But I had a 4th grade teacher that only had straight A students. Now think about that. You probably never seen another teacher like that either, right?
Mm-mm.
Well, here's her mentality. What was her responsibility for being in that classroom in the first place?
My guess is as good as yours. I mean, I know that
Is to teach those students, right, the content that she was put there to, whether she was a math teacher or science teacher or whatever, it didn't matter. That was her responsibility, is to teach the students, right?
Right.
Well, let's say that I was not one of the best students, okay, in the 4th grade, but I was pretty good at math. But she gives me a test, and I hand that test in, and I miss 5 questions on that test. Well, a normal teacher would count that depending on how many questions there were and give me a grade from A to F, and that was it. But she figured her responsibility was to teach that content to that student. And if that student didn't get 5 of those questions, it was her fault. So she handed it back to the student, and he was to redo those 5. If he got 3 of them right and 2 of them wrong, and she would hand it back to him again. We got every one of those math problems correct. And that was the first responsibility of hers anyway, was to make sure that I understood how to do the math problem, right?
Right. Right.
So she had straight A students. That's what led us to create that training system in the same manner. You're not going to get to module 2 until we know as providers, and you know as a participant, that you understand to 100% competency before you're given the key to move on to the next module.
Well, if that is the nexus lexus of this exercise, is that the competency is to be measured well before the outcome, and there's checks and balances to make sure that competency is brought up to 100% or straight A. That is what the deliverable will be based on how this thing is implemented. I think that can be a game changer, and how everybody who's going to be in this ecosystem says, well, yeah, if you guys can do this and it results in a certification, that certification is not just a certification, it's a certification of 100% competency of all the things that they were exposed to. And so
that's verification of the content that you're trying to provide. Now just think about that, putting that on Silo Cloud, or putting that on Persona. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and the functionality is whatever the customer or the content provider wants it to be, because we can program that.
Right. So I'll leave you with this, and this is a quote that a gentleman from Apple, who is a distinguished educator, gave me. he's now left Apple and he's now working with an online college who is really innovative, and they're doing everything they can to reverse engineer the way community colleges and universities teach learners about how to get to these certifications, these micro certifications and these badges. But he said that if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow. John
Well,
Dewey.
this I can guarantee you. Okay. You supply the content, and if you got the customer to pay for the development of the training system and the channels, we can guarantee 100% graduation.
Competency, 100% competency. Yeah. So that's
No
what
problem.
the value proposition is. 100%. So everybody, if we did a cohort of 30 people, all 30 people will get 100% competency of what we're exposing them to. And it won't just be a certification, it'll be a certification of 100% competency. That is a position statement.
Unless they quit.
Yeah, yeah. And everything that I've been told is if they don't put any skin in the game, they probably will quit, because it's called challenge-based and performance-based learning, which they have never been exposed to.
Well, see, here's if they're going down a channel that they have interest in, we're keeping them engaged. You know, we're not. How many times, thinking back, think about this, Kevin. How many times did you go to sleep in one of those classes when you were in school? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
You weren't engaged. You didn't have interest in it, right? So if they're engaged and they got interest in the subject matter that you're trying to deliver, we're a measuring stick. Okay. That's all ACardios is. That's what led me into ACardios. We're a measuring stick of your cardiovascular system. Nowhere else in the world are you going to get that type of measuring on a non-invasive basis. You can't get it anywhere in the world, and I challenge you to go find it. It ain't there.
Right.
Okay.
Well, so your way of thinking is what I want to challenge the procurers to say, find some other training program or system that is deployed in the way that we're going to deploy it, and we will give it to you for free, or I'll pay for it. So that's really what I want them to do, because again, they're going to look for the operator of this delivery of training and the system that it's riding on. They're going to look for somebody to design it, run it, implement it end to end. And that's what they'll pay for. And if there is a outcome of the 30 students in the pilot program and the charter program getting not only the certification, but showing how it was measuring the competency and the steps it took to get them to that competency, as even something that's even proprietary to how it's done, they will say, oh my goodness, okay, all right, let's scale this thing. Because that's what they really would like to stand behind, is that, yeah, we got the certifications, but we can measure their competency ratio of taking everything step by step. So
Absolutely.
that there is step by step. So measurement, accountability, and all the things in between.
Break it down into bite-sized modules, okay, and walk that participant. Doesn't matter the age. We walk that participant down a primrose path. We already know what's at the end. If they get to the end, they just graduated.
Right. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this recording and I'm going to make sure that each one of the people understand that this is a minimum viable product, is a training program that provides the competency testing steps to guarantee and measure these people's performance before any culminating event or activity takes place.
Let me
Just
ask
like,
you,
again, sure.
let me ask you this so that they are getting, so that the customer, the end customer, whoever's providing the content, gets the best bang for their buck. Okay. If this was used as a pre-course, and how much time would they be able to save, not wasting time on students that really weren't interested? What if this was an entry level qualification?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that is very important to the mentor who is volunteering their time
Exactly.
to this pool of talent to shake out all the people who are wasting their time.
Exactly. I
So
mean,
that is the,
you start quantifying that for a university and volunteers. I don't know that you could put a accurate, high enough dollar value to that.
yeah, there is, it's priceless, absolutely priceless.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. All right. So I'm glad I recorded this. Why would I remember otherwise? So the agenda for Friday for Keisha, I will invite Juno Bray. I will petition the other two people, Lemur Walker. I'll send you LinkedIn on those two, Lemur Walker from Valence and Lou Libben from Spectrum, from Sinclair Broadcasting and Spectrum Allocation. Because again, I just want to make sure that everybody is going to give this the time and energy to really understand what we are just purporting is that the measurement of everybody's time and everybody's performance will
Right.
be on the table. Okay.
Right.
So
One thing that I would ask you to do is those links that I sent you, especially the PDFs. I sent you 2 PDFs. It's a part 1 and part 2. I don't know if you've had a chance to view those.
No, I haven't.
Okay, if you would view those and forward those 2 PDFs to the general,
Okay.
because that's going to give him a better understanding. He was a little, I think we hit him a little bit on blind side from, but I guarantee you that since he disclosed and shared that he was part of the development, but what he was part of was really rudimentary to what we can do now.
Okay.
Right.
Well, and I thought that he could add some value to all the time and energy you spent thus far, and may be willing to spend a little bit more on some developmental things before we find somebody who's willing to pay for any prototype that we can put to the procurement departments that he can get to. But he can get to them. I think he just has to be able to be the author of how he can pitch it to these people in the language in which he's accustomed to pitching things to the procurement people. Because I know he's time tested on. Sorry, go ahead.
If he would like to be a part of helping save lives, I'd welcome him.
Okay. All right. So I think that's why we need to spend a little bit more time on a different shelf than the rest of these folks, because he's only helping Dakar because he really believes in what I'm doing for the greater good. But his talents would be wasted if we didn't give him another session on all the things he's doing.
Well, that's why I was saying, Kevin, if give him more than the 2 times that you have for Keisha, because I really,
yeah, as a matter of fact, I think he just needs his own session. He really does.
yeah, a lot of times and I don't mind doing another session for him, because I would really like to drill down into the functionality of what he has no idea can be done.
Yeah, well, the things you shared with me would light up the room with possibilities that if he understood them clearly, he could be the person that you'd like to have on your team. Because
Absolutely.
he can open doors, but because of his influence, but if he understood it, there's no limitations to what he could do.
Well, do me a favor, Kevin, because this is going to be this is good feedback for me. If you will, it's probably going to take you 20 minutes or so to go through those 2 PDFs. If you would go through them, I would like for you to give me a call back after you viewed them and tell me your understanding of the content.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
I can't do it today. I'm challenged today, but I think tomorrow's Thursday, right? I think tomorrow I'll dedicate the time to really taking a look and then having a session with you so that I can be clear on what it is you want me to understand. So I could potentially be a representation of what it is that General Bray would even question me. Well, what are we talking about? And what are we doing? Because he will challenge me that way before he spends, any of his valuable time.
That's fine. I love it because
Right.
definitely don't want to waste his time and don't have time to waste.
Right.
So
Right,
I would-
right. So what I'm auditioning really for is a marketing rep for you, because I have other people like General Bray who are in procurement positions.
okay.
And if we're really talking about trying to find the people who desperately need these solutions, not just have money, then as you said, to save lives, I want to be proficient at really making sure I hit the mark.
Let me while we're on here, I'm going to flip the camera around and show you our studio. I don't think you've seen it, have you?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I can't remember. I mean, it's been a while since Lyle's.
Yeah, it's
given
okay.
us- Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Yeah. Okay.
This is our control room.
And this is in Oklahoma, right?
Yes, this is in
Okay.
Tulsa. This is the control room. We've got 3 mobile studios. This is one that controls 8 cameras. That's another one that controls 8 additional cameras. And that's another one that controls an additional 8 cameras. All
Wow.
these are mobile.
What are these cameras capturing? Or what are these cameras supposed to capture?
Anything remotely in the field. This is one of our, if you see, everything is green screen.
Mhm.
So that means we can put any content on that green screen on all of these walls. All 4K or 6K cameras, along with teleprompters as well. And we've got the conference table sort of full of stuff that just came in, but all those are green screened as well. And here's actually the anchor desk. And then another station as well.
Okay, so this is
With
a
some of the
studio.
technology
This is a
by either
studio.
Deutsche Bahn, RP Digital, or ARS.
Right. So this studio facilitates what broadcast programming?
We're doing podcasts currently from here. We also can lease it out to different customers.
Okay.
And the podcast is now syndicated. Here is our newspapers that
Okay.
we do a bi-weekly newspaper, a monthly magazine, and a daily. If you go to Persona Digest, you'll see the monthly magazine. And if you go to Persona Post, you'll see daily news, world news that you won't hear other places.
Okay. Nice.
So anyway,
Nice. Well, and so this helps me because what Keisha has offered up is some space in the Hollywood, LA zip codes that are connecting to a lot of economic development, but also are in the proximity of the creative tech community, especially the folks in creative, because Hollywood is the epicenter for a lot of the programming that's going to come out. But they obviously are interested, and I also would say sports. Inglewood, California is going to become possibly the epicenter for sports / entertainment in the country, because we're going to have the NFL Super Bowl next year. We're going to have the NBA finals. We're going to have the 2028 Olympics, and literally a ton of other high-end activities that will be global happening in this zip code. So that's why I want to showcase what Lyle has in Oklahoma as a potential satellite somewhere in Inglewood, California, or South LA, because that's where you're going to be able to do the socializing and the networking, so that people will understand that the technological advancements that you guys have produced for OTT, IP over TV, edge servers, cloud, all of those things will be more, I guess, appreciated if they could see, touch, smell it right here in the zip code where I'm standing. That's the importance of it. It's great to have the flagship somewhere where it's functional for you guys, but what happens and what works here in LA, just like you drove from, wherever it was in the South to Long Beach, California, this is where people come to get that flash and dash.
Did you see that video?
Yes, I did. That's why I said it's probably a reason why. That's how I learn, is when I see the video, the story, the voice, video, and data in the story. That's where I, kind of was able to remember the things that, kind of resonated more with me than the flat 2D media with the PDFs that I looked at, because I wanted to see the story. And that's the reason why being here in LA is so important, because you have the Emmys, the Grammys, and the Oscars. Because when people think about media, ad tech, all those things, the pinnacle of why everybody does these things is to have award-winning programming. And that's where LA gives you that kind of cachet, because everybody wants to be where the award-winning people are. And I'm not saying that it's fair or it's even saleable as something, but it's where the press and all the publicity and the media stirs all this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I offer in LA to Lyle, is stuff that you can't buy.
Right.
So when you go, so when you think about anything that you're talking about here, even if it's healthcare, if it's advanced manufacturing, you put this storytelling, award-winning atmosphere around this thing. It does become atmospheric. It is the kind of stuff that people will spend more advertising dollars on, and more affinity types of things than they would anywhere else in the world. That's and it's not fair, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm good. So I will look at those PDFs and I'll give it the same attention I did at the video. But I promise you, if the PDFs are that important to you, we got to make sure that they become 3D and put some music and some other stuff around it, and people will say, "Oh my God, okay, I didn't know."
Yeah,
that's unfortunate, but that's the way I would really create more values. If I saw the 2D stuff to turn into 3D and 4D, then you've got something that will get everybody, including celebrities, to say, "Hey, how can I rep this?"
Right.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
If you will forward that to the general, I'd appreciate it, because that's going to give him a better understanding of what he could be a part of. And the other LinkedIn, I know I mentioned it the other day, but right now I'm drawing a blank. Was I supposed to reach out to those people through LinkedIn?
No, I haven't
Okay.
I've explained to anybody what it is they're supposed to do next. So
Okay.
I'm just doing these dog and pony introductions so that we can find consensus that we can all try to do something either together or separate.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
All right, sir. You have a great
right.
rest of the day.
Okay, and I'll hit you tomorrow for the callback on the PDF.
Okay, fantastic. God
Okay,
bless.
thank you,
Talk to
Rick.
you later,
Thank
buddy.
you, Rick. All right, now,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye.